get feelings. Feelings lead to behaviors. Behaviors turn to habits. Habits mature to become character. And from character, it becomes a personality. We can reverse it by having the mind of Christ, so that what comes into our mind, because the source is the word of God, it will change how we feel. It will change how we behave. It will change our habits. It will make our character to be like of Christ. And finally, our personality is going to be godly. Amen. There is hope for us, and there is hope for our children. My brothers, you might have married a virgin, but at 40 years, during the secondary adolescence, she becomes a lesbian. How can we avoid that? And see, how can we develop ourselves, add knowledge to ourselves, bring great revolution in this development of marriage and family while others are collapsing? It has been found out that boys, I'm very specific, boys raised in single-parented families have high chances in getting to a lot of crimes in our society in comparison to boys who have been raised in a more stable, healthy family. For men, love is commitment, it's not a feeling. And sex for men does not mean necessarily love. If I'm thirsty and I drink water, does it mean I love water? That's the mind of a man. Research has found out that healthy marriages produce healthy children and healthy family members as far as their mental and emotional experiences are concerned.
And so we come into this world ruined creatures. We come into this world creatures who are in danger of eternal damnation, the eternal wrath of God. Every single human being comes into this world bearing the sin of Adam, both its corruption as well as its penalty. Yes. So sin is not something that that comes to us after we are born. It's something we come into this world with. That.
Welcome once more. This is Moment with Christ, coming all the way from Mombasa, Kenya. I'm happy and excited for all of you who are joining us from different parts of our country, Kenya, different parts of other countries of the world. I'm happy and excited. None other than Reverend Collins Bolo of Christ Temple Community Church. Today, I don't know where you might be joining us from and even attending our forum today, but kindly, if you can get my frequency, you can hear me, just type and tell us where you are watching us from, and I'll be very happy and excited about it in one way or the other. It's another new day when we are going to have our Wednesday program for Moment with Christ. I know some of you have been joining us in other programs which we have, including My Health, My Wealth, which comes every Tuesday with a professional medical practitioner who empowers us, equips us, and also adds wisdom to us as far as health issues are concerned. Every day, Wednesday, we have Moment with Christ, which is a religious program with a purpose of making sure that we enlighten as far as the work of faith is concerned. And every Thursday, we have the Marketplace Venture. And this program is geared specifically to help you to understand you can be a success in your area of career, while at the same time you're holding on to your faith and your religious beliefs. And finally, on Friday, we have Rebuilding Family Foundation, which exists to educate us and to inform us about dynamics of family, marriage, and marriage. Welcome once more. Kindly subscribe to our channel and tell us where you are watching us from. Am I clear? Can you hear me well? Are you getting good information? Just communicate with us and let us connect with you. Today, we have a guest whom I've invited to come in our program so that he can share a vast of information, especially in context to what is happening in Kenya right now. Some of you are aware there's a commission of inquiry which has been developed and formed so that it can get on ground and meet with different religious leaders, both Christians, Muslim, Hindus, and others, with an intention of coming up with a system of regulating religious behaviors within our society. And that one brings us to this big question, specifically when it comes to the church. Members of the body of Christ within our country, Kenya, who should regulate the church? Is it the government? Should they self-regulate themselves? Or should they randomly move the way they want? This is a big question whereby people from different parts of our country are asking today, and they need solution and way forward. And today, one of the persons will be helping us in tackling these issues and is going to give us his view and his organization view on this matter. Is none other than Apostle Twalib Odongo. At one point of time, he was a Muslim. Then he met with Jesus Christ and converted to Christianity. What is in his mind? What is in the organization is running? Kenya Christian Voice. What is their stand on the same? And what about others in the same organization? What are they saying about subject matter? Let me welcome Apostle Zachariah Odongo to the studio today. Karibu sana mtumishi.
Thank you very much, Reverend Collins. Thank you for inviting me for this meeting today. It is a very great pleasure to be here. My name is Apostle Twali Bokelo Odongo, but I'm using Zachariah for the purpose of wisdom, because I minister in Mombasa. Many times when I call my name Twali, it actually evokes some reaction. But I thank God I'm born again. Yeah, I'm born again. So I think I will go straight to the point. You've given me some questions to answer. First of all, let me give the background of the task force that was formed by the president. I think the reason why the task force was formed, it was because of what was happening in Shakahola. We know very well that we have over 400 people that died in Shakahola because of radicalization and cultic spirit that was operating in that land. This caused an alarm to the government to form this task force so that they can come out with a structure that can help them to regulate the church or the religious organization in the country of Kenya. We as Kenya Christian Voice, I'm the chairman of Kenya Christian Voice, we have a stand. We have really submitted our position, our proposal to the task force. It was done in Mombasa. And I think yesterday I was able to also to submit my proposal for the Kenya Christian Voice to the task force, where Bishop Mark Karuki was chairing the meeting, and he received my proposal. So first of all, let me start by question number one that you gave me to be able to answer. The first question was, is there any connection between the body of Christ and Shakahola? I think that was the first question that I wanted first of all, to tackle.
Yeah, that's the first question.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
can I, because today, it will be very important because today there are so many people. The church is under a lot of pressure because of one man, malpractice and criminal behavior, which actually brings us to that particular question. Is there any relationship between the two? Yes, kindly, you can tackle that. What's your view on the same matter?
Yes, but Reverend, I think to me, first of all, we cannot run away from the truth, because Mackenzie was a minister of the gospel. So being a minister of the gospel, the Bible says in the book of Romans chapter 11 and verse 29, that for the gifts and calling of God are irrevocable. So being the fact that he was called as a pastor, he remained to be a pastor. But does not mean that every pastor is on the right path, because pastors are human beings. To me, we can distance ourselves by the act that he did, because that was a criminalism. It was an act of extremism and cultic behavior, which I believe very clearly that if the government could enact our laws. Special Society Act is very clear, and also our penal codes are very clear. If we could enact our laws into latter, I think this kind of malpractice could be stopped. But I also want to say one thing here, that the Shakahola issue was not a result of failure of church regulation or lack of theological certificate, but a failure of the government machinery to enforce the law against criminalism. Why do I say this one? First of all, I was able to Google the background of Pastor Mackenzie. I found out that he was in the Baptist church and eventually rebelled and formed his own church. I also found out that he has a theological certificate. So the issue of theological certificate was not a very big thing as such. Two, Mackenzie as a person, because in the country of Kenya, when you want to register ministry, by then the special branch could do what you call thorough background checkup of a person, especially the chairman. Yeah. And it's also required that you present at least a certificate, a theological certificate with a registrar before it's being registered. So if there was a thorough background checkup by the special branch, by then, nowadays they are called National Intelligence, whatever, NIS. If the thorough background checkup was done about Mackenzie, so I believe Mackenzie was known. Mackenzie was known because if that was done, we could know who was Mackenzie. Two, there were a lot of reports concerning issues of Mackenzie reported to the police. So this must have been enough information for the security intelligence to follow up the link of Mackenzie. Let me also say one thing here. Yes.
Yes, in other words, what you are saying is that one, Mackenzie as a person was once in a Baptist church, which
yes,
is a church which has been there for quite a long time and very much respected. Then he decided to leave this network of Baptists to start his own church.
That's correct.
Now, upon starting his church, he registered it with this in background. During that time when registrations of churches were taking place, one was supposed to offer to give an evidence of training, which he gave an evidence of a certificate in theology, which he had done.
That's correct.
So we don't have
That's correct.
With his academic achievements, not a problem. Then, yes, apart from that, the security organs were responsible to do investigation upon the registration of the church.
That's correct.
Meaning that with Mackenzie issue, the problem is not his calling, neither his certificate, but criminal offense, which the law of this land need to deal with him as an individual.
That's correct.
And not taking his case as a scapegoat so that they can now address the people who are innocent.
That's correct. That's correct, Reverend. Your point. And let me also add.
Thank you very much. That's a really important information, even as Apostle Zakaria Odongo adds more information to us. Here, the problem was not the theological institution he went to, neither registering the church. His registration of the church, it included, and it was supposed to be analyzed upon registration by the key security organs.
Yes.
The big question, did they do it or not? And if they did, and more cases came about him, why was nothing done? Is the problem negligence of the security organs, or is the problem negligence of other ministers and churches which have totally nothing to do with Mackenzie? Give us a minute, just a minute, to get back and get more information. But from where you are currently, tell us, what's your opinion about the thing? Did the church, the body of Christ, do a mistake? Or was it just an individual who needs to die by his own choice? Okay, welcome back, everyone. If you can hear us, kindly subscribe to our channel, learn and ask your questions. so that we can be able to share as Apostle Zachariah Odongo speaks to us about Kenya Christian Voice position on the matter of church regulation. Back to you, Apostle.
Yes, but Reverend Collins, I want to add another point here that is very clearly. I think 400 people cannot die within one day. And
Yes.
you know very well Kenya has the best intelligent machinery. The question is,
very well.
The question is, where was the DCI? Where was the area chief? Where was the sub-chief? The area village elder? The nyumba kumi? All these organs are enough to give us to expose what was going on, because this thing could not happen within one day. You cannot kill 400 people within one day. It is evidently that these things had happened for a long period. So we strongly believe this was enough indication to give the link of the criminalism that was operating. So we feel there was failure in the government machinery to expose the criminalism that was taking place in Shakahola. So it is wrong for the government, it is wrong for Kenya Christian Voice, we hold our opinion, it's wrong for the government to direct her canon towards the church, because this was individual criminal that must be dealt with individually and be responsible as a person, Mackenzie.
Thank you very much. Let me put an emphasis. Maybe some might not be getting our English well. Maybe I can repeat in Swahili. Ndio, ni kweli kwamba katika sehemu ya Shakahola kuna janga lilitokea. Zaidi ya watu 400 ilipatikana kwamba wamekufa, na sababu ilikuwa ni kwamba walikuwa wakifunga na kuomba. Lakini swali kubwa ni hili: je, kanisa linafaa la ujumla la Kenya kuwekwa katika kona na kufinywa ama kusurutishwa ya kwamba likaguliwe zaidi kwa undani kwa sababu ya makosa ya mtu mmoja, dhambi la mtu mmoja na utundu wa mtu mmoja? Mtume Zakaria amesema ni kwamba kabla kanisa kusajiliwa katika nchi yetu ya Kenya, inapasa ya kwamba kwanza huyo mchungaji atakana amesomea chuo cha Biblia katika njia moja ama nyingine. Mackenzi alikuwa amesoma na yuko na cheti chake, na sio hiyo peke yake. Ili kanisa lake lipate kusajiliwa, ilibidi vitengo kadha wa kadha ya serikali ipate kuchunguza na kuja katika kiwango cha kuzati kujua kwamba mtu huyu yuko sawa na kanisa lake sajiliwe. Hilo tunaletea katika swali lingine: je, ilifanywa ama haikufanywa? Je, kuwezekana kuna kusembea kulipatikana kwa vitengo kadhaa vya serikali? Na kama vilikuwepo, kwa nini basi watu wengine wote watiwe kitanzi kwa sababu ya kuzembea kwa idara kadha wa kadha katika sehemu ya serikali? Ndiposa swali letu leo ni kwamba kanisa linahitaji kupigwa ramani na kukaguliwa na serikali, ama inahitaji kujikagua kivyake? Mtume Zakaria yuko hapa leo pamoja nasi ili apate kutufafanulia na kutupatia msimamo wa kikundi chao ambaye ndio kiongozi, kwa Kiingereza inaitwa Kenya Christian Voices. Tumsikie tena na kuendelea kupata ufahamu. Lakini mpaka pale tumefika sasa, makosa yaliyofanyika Shakahola na Mackenzi ni kuzembea kwa vitengo fulani vya serikali, lakini si kwa sababu ya kulala kwa kanisa ama mwili wa Kristo. Wacha tuongezee mengine na tupate kuelewa zaidi shida iko wapi na ni nini inatupasa kufanya. Na je, kuna uwezekano kando na Mackenzi kuna watumishi wengine na makanisa mengine ambayo yamekuwa yakichangia upotovu wa haki za kibinadamu kwa njia moja ama nyingine? Kwako mtumishi.
Yes, nashukuru sana, Reverend. I think there's something I also want to highlight. In question number 2, you said, may it be possible we have some minister and churches on human rights violation and abuse of religion. What I want to emphasize here, I say yes. But having said that one, it does not mean there are not enough laws that can protect such kind of character. Our Society Act, Cap 108, is clear on gathering in a place of worship. If you gather in a place of worship and you have a name and that organization is not registered, that is a crime by law. So even if our chief can be sensitive to actually ask people that are gathering together, which is this church? And if they don't have registration, that is a crime. Not only that one, according to our penal code, Cap 313, most of these criminal events that were reported by the media purported to be done by religious leaders. Some crime like rape, defile, murder, false pretense, obtaining money with false pretense, attempt to commit suicide, which all these are counted under our penal code. If our law enforcement can take the position well, without fear of title, bishop, or pastor, most of these things that have taken place can be prevented. I hope I'm being clear there, because our laws are strong. So most of these violations are being done by religious leaders, especially this area of obtaining money with false pretense. It's a criminal offense. You know, if, for example, you ask for money to buy a car and people have raised money to buy a car and you don't buy a car that you're supposed to buy, that is an offense. If you gather together and you are calling yourself, let's say, Jesus, whatever, and that organization is not registered by Society Act, that is a crime. So what we are saying here, there is enough law in our country that can protect people that misuse religion, people that are culting, people that operate under error. Like, for example, the Mackenzie was full of error, because I don't need to die for me to meet with Jesus. The Bible said, parapanda itapolia, wafu katika Kristo na walio hai katika Kristo watanyakuliwa kukutana mawinguni, which means there are some people won't die, they will meet with Jesus and they taken to the cloud. So you don't need to die for you to meet with Jesus. That is an error. That is an error. So what you're saying here is that was an offense of actually propelling, attempting murder is an offense. So if the government law enforcement were active, were very, I don't know what word I can use, ni kuzembea kulitokezea pahali. That's why tukapata haya majanga yakatokezea.
Yes. So in other words, what we are saying is that it is true right now we might be having even churches and church leaders who are violating the law and still nothing's been done. Like yesterday, there's a judge who sentenced one pastor for 120 years because he has been actually sexually abusing children and telling them that it's a process of them being cleansed.
Yes.
And it's good because he was sentenced as an individual because of his own personal choices.
Yes.
And that's the same call for today. Mackenzie messed up as an individual and he needs to be crucified as an individual.
That's correct. That's correct, Reverend.
Yeah, that's important. Thank you very much. Yes, proceed. So now that we have other ministers even today who are breaking the law, they're interfering with human rights issues in one way or the other. So we all agree actually something needs to be done. The laws already exist. What needs to be done is enforcement of law so that the same law can protect its own people within our society. Now, with that in mind, now that the government has made a commission on church regulation, what should we do?
Thank you very much. I think what we are supposed to do, we need to put our house in order. We need to put our house in order. It's needed because God is God of order. There is a need for the church to come in order. But having said that one, that does not give a room for the government to interfere with the church. Because according to Article 8 of our Constitution, is very clearly, it states that there shall be no state religion. According to my interpretation, the spirit behind this chapter, this act, is that state will be separate from religion.
Yes.
So when we give a room for the government to start regulating the church, we'll end up violating the Bill of Rights.
Yes.
And that is very fundamental for us. Because the Bill of Rights is something that cannot be compromised at all costs, unless there's amendment of the Constitution. That is what I feel. That is what I feel, because if you go through the Bill of Rights, let me say this one, if the government does not approach this thing very well, we may end up having amendment of the Constitution, or we may end up going to court the Umtata ways. So I think the best thing that can be done, instead of enacting another law to control the freedom of worship, the freedom of belief, the freedom of opinion, which is very covered in our Article 32 of our Constitution, I think it would be wrong for the government to give direction how they are supposed to regulate the churches. That is our opinion. So as Kenya Christian Voice, we recommend that there shall be separation between the church and the state to preserve as it has been covered by our current constitution. We don't want to have amendment of the constitution now. It's very expensive to amend the constitution. It's a long way to go. But if there are some legislation that can be done through the parliament, using through the act, through the Society Act, that is possible. But I think I will come to that point when I'll be answering the other question that you bring down there.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very important. Actually, you are putting it as per the law now. The church and the state should be separate. There should not be a state religion.
That's
meaning
correct.
that at any given time, nobody should feel like Kenya belongs to Christians or Kenya belongs to Muslims. Kenya accommodates people of diverse religious beliefs in one way or the other. So once it starts regulating, the danger is there's high chances that the state and religion will start being entangled, leading to a lot of confusion in one way or the other.
Yes.
So in other words, you are saying the church should regulate itself.
Yes, the church should. In fact, I will come to regulation. The church needs to have its own regulation. But what's also one thing that we need also to accept, as much we have our own regulation, we must also agree there is diversity of statement of faith.
Yes.
Yeah. So it is very hard to see a Pentecostal church regulating a Protestant or an Anglican. So I think, to me, it will be very important. It's very important that if we need to have a church regulation, let every ministry has its own way of regulating by putting amendment in the Constitution, how they're supposed to do their training, how they're supposed to be accountable according to the statement of their faith. However, if we need to have an umbrella body, it will be my wish that it should not bring a confusion, because there's a chance of bringing a confusion, because let's see now there's an umbrella body B that is actually regulating Mr. X, who is under Ministry N. Now, Ministry N, it have presiding bishop. He has given his cover letter. At the same time, this X is under regulated by umbrella A. There'll be a confusion there. You get what I'm saying there?
Yes.
But if the umbrella body
Yes.
could connect all the presiding bishop, the founders, the authorities of those churches, and have a memorandum of
Yes.
understanding among themselves, without creating threat to individual person that is being covered by umbrella body. That is my way.
Yes.
But if now the umbrella body will come direct to individual, there will be a confusion by law.
Actually, you have just reminded me situation some years back when it came to Bible schools and theological schools. Most of them were denomination related. So AIC had their own, Anglican their own, their PCA their
Yes,
own.
that's correct.
A time came whereby accrediting bodies came in.
Yes.
With the accrediting body, they started now to make sure and the training taking place within this institution, valid
Yes.
as far as academia is concerned and the Christian worldview is concerned.
Yes.
So I remember sometimes back there are so many Bible colleges had to be scrapped off because what they are insinuating is quality training was totally substandard. And standardization started taking place, whereby today you can find a Christian of any denomination can go to St. Paul Theological School, can go to Scott Theological School, can go to Moffat, can go to Park for Nairobi Pentecostal, can go to East Africa School of Theology, because all of these Bible institutions are being regulated under what we call ACT as one of the body which is regulating this institution. Now that one brings us to this question. Just as we have regulating body for theological institutions, will it be important for us to have an umbrella body which will make sure that its members are working within the parameter of the Bible? That's very key, very important. Before Apostle Zechariah continues from where he left, I told you every Thursday we have Moment with Christ. No, we have a marketplace venture whereby we learn so many skills on how we can sharpen ourselves to become good, nice, and excellent in our careers. Let me just show you a clip of one of the trainings we had last time from one great coach on how we ought to sharpen our gifts and talent, our skill and mindset for the kind of creation and success we need.
Okay, so wealth doesn't matter how hard you work down here. Working harder is not going to make you wealthy. Now, you can live down here your whole life and still be wealthy, because wealth that you create is going to be determined by what you do with the money that you make, not how much money you make. Okay? So, but you're not going to create wealth by working harder down here. Wealth doesn't start to be created until we get above the line. So, what's this level? This level is communication. And on this level, we use our mouth to create money. I mean, we could also write, but we're going to just communication, okay? So, on the low end, you're going to make $100,000 a year, and on the high end, you could make hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Hundreds of millions. You sell cars, you can make $100,000 a year selling cars. You make $100,000 a year selling insurance. You make $100,000 a year selling real estate. You can make more than that, but if you're an A-list actor, an A-list singer, or you're a songwriter like Dolly Parton, you can make $100 million a year. Huh. Communication. Here's what's interesting. While I was growing up and everybody was telling me that children are to be seen and not heard, and they were telling me sit still and be quiet, nobody told me that the key to fortune is in communication. This book right here, I wrote this book. It's called Boss Moves. And boss is not me bossing you around. It's certainly not you bossing me around, so let's don't get it twisted. Okay, so it's called BOSS moves. BOSS is an acronym that stands for Business Optimization Success Secrets, or if you're referring to a person that's a boss, Business Optimization Success Strategist. That's a person who's a boss, right? So we show people how to optimize their businesses. Optimize, oh, that's like sharpening the axe. Are you seeing the connection? Well, up here, you use your mouth, okay? Now, the highest level of value is imagination. And on this level, we use our mind and our money to make money. Now, here's what's cool. This is the highest level of value. Up here, you're going to make on the low end, you're going to make $1 million a year. On the high end, it could be billions or more. One of the things I found out, I worked way harder when I was down here. I was never here. Okay, that was not me. I was down here. I was the person they were telling what to do. It didn't matter how hard I worked, the amount of money I made was always going to be limited at the lower levels of value. How many of y'all track it? And so what we got to do is we want to get to the place in our lives where we say, like, I don't need to work harder to make more money. If I want to create wealth, I don't need to work harder, I need to work higher. Oh, work at a higher level. It's not about delivering more value at the lower levels. It's about delivering a higher value. Are y'all tracking with me? It's about delivering a higher value for other people at a higher level.
Yes. Delivering higher value at higher level. Every Thursday, great teachings from people who are succeeding and making success in different areas of their life. Tomorrow, we'll be having two key people who will still talk with us about the issue of church regulation. We'll be having Professor Bet Chelgoy and Dr. Jason Musioka. Don't miss tomorrow from 8 to 9 as we listen to what Professor thinks, believes, if the church will do, will be safe and we won't become victims of Mackenzie choices. And let's also listen to Dr. Jason Musioka tomorrow from 8 to 9. Jason Musioka is a Kenyan today who is a consultant of the government of South Africa on matters of economy and also at the same time a pastor in South Africa. Tomorrow, don't miss it. Meanwhile, let's move on and listen from Apostle Talib Zachariah Odongo on the matters of the church and its regulation. Who should regulate the church? Should we regulate ourselves or should the government regulate us? Welcome back, Apostle Zachariah Odongo.
Thank you very much. I think let me finish the last statement in that question number 3, which says, as a church, we need to put our house in order, but there must be a clear separation between the church and the state. And I think I also highlighted the Article 8 and also Article 32, which is the Bill of Rights. But I also want just to put something just slightly here, that, enacting a law to control freedom of worship shall contravene Kenya's international human rights law obligation within the UA and UN. I think that is something that we must be very watchfully, because the freedom of worship must be protected for all persons by the state if it is within the law. Yeah, if it is within the law. And as Christian, we should not be tightly regulated on how we worship God in our churches. That is something that we cannot compromise, and it is our right, and we believe we will maintain that one. So as Kenya Christian Voice, we recommend that there shall be separation between the church and the state to preserve its catering by the current law. It's being catered by the current law. So that is the stand of Kenya Christian Voice. Having said that one, I'll go to your question number 4, which you asked, should every local church or denomination be subjected to pay tax? I think my answer will be no from the word God. Why do I say a big no? Because, you know, the church is not a profit organization. The church is not a profit organization. So subjecting a church to taxation, it is wrong. Because in other countries, we've seen church is being taken as charity organization, whereby when you give into it, there is a tax relief that is being given to a person. I believe as Kenya, that is the direction we may wish to go, that we recommend the Kenya tax regime be revised to accept religious institutions from burdensome taxation. That is our recommendation. We wish there must be some legislation or some law that will give us a waiver or see a church as a non-prophetic organization and as a charity, so that we can be given waiver. For example, I think there's some times where when you import something in the name of the church, you are given tax waiver at the port. But that thing disappears somewhere. So I think
it used to happen in the past because, for example, you have a church, then you get a lot of donation so that you can help the community. And sometimes some of the fundings which are coming for the community, and some churches, actually in Kenya today, the church plays a very key role on community development in so many ways. Try to imagine today, if Catholic Church will decide to shut down all their schools in Kenya, the government will fall to its knees. If Anglican churches today will close all their schools, the government will get to its knees. And we have many other upcoming churches which have so many programs and projects which actually are helping the community. And in the past, it was good because when some of these supports were coming for our communities, the churches used to get a waiver. Today, unfortunately, we have some churches which are registered as companies. And I think these are some of the things that are actually a problem. Some churches today have been registered as political parties. Then why should a church which has been registered as a company or a political party escape being taxed, while another which has been registered under Society Act and doing some good work in the community be on the same page? I think these are some of the gaps and which need to be addressed within our society.
I think it is wrong for a church to be registered as a company. It is only in Uganda where you can register as a company, but the shareholders are not limited. You know, shares by guarantors. The directors are shared by guarantor. But in Kenya, you can only register a church under Society Act. So if you register as a company, I think the objective will be different. They cannot do marriage, they cannot do baptism, they cannot do burial.
Yeah, no, that's the funny thing, because some churches are registered as companies, some are registered as NGOs, some have been registered as CBOs, and by the end of the day, some of the people who have done such kind of registrations are the ones who are messing around, because they know after all is said and done, this is my family company. So I think those ones need to be taxed.
Yeah.
But those who are registered under Society Act, waivers, because it's a charity. Not every local church is getting a lot of funding. There are some even pastors who are struggling financially, and they have to do extra work because the community where they are serving, the economically, socioeconomically, they're down.
Yes. I think we need to appreciate the church is doing good things. We've seen a lot of transformation in the slums because of the church.
That is true.
we need to appreciate what the church is doing, and I think the government need to make a step to appreciate what the church is doing. I am a result of a transformation because of the church, due to my background. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think we go to question number 5, which is what is the view on men and women of God called getting trained for ministry?
Yeah.
This is a very challenging question. I will have 2 opinions: personal opinion and opinion generally. I think training is important. It's an important aspect for a called one. Though that is not a qualification for God to call somebody for his work. Yeah, that is have to be clear. And training can be either formal or informal.
Yes.
And if you can read the book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6, it says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because they have rejected the knowledge of God."
Yeah.
And also, if you see the book of Acts, chapter 4, verse 13, it's clear. It says that these disciples, they were being seen as uneducated, but they were very bold when they were ministering. So the Bible says here, now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were uneducated and trained men, they marveled. And they realized that they were with Jesus.
Yes.
Now, this last statement is very important.
Yes.
Being with Jesus for 3 years, that is not training. So we should not use this scripture to actually throw away training, because though they were untrained and uneducated, but they were under informal training, because they are together with Jesus. They saw what he was doing. They were imparted. So they did not start from zero. So I think there is a need for training, but there must be a rider. We should not put it as if, it is a must, a mandatory. It's not a justification for calling. Because even Mackenzie is trained.
Yes.
But you've seen what you have done.
I still messed up.
Yes, apart from that, I think there's something that is very important that you also must understand. From my point now, where I'm sitting, I believe the Holy Spirit is a good teacher, is a guider, a comforter, and a regulator.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think we also need to know that we as believers, we have different perspective from maybe other religions. But having said that one, that cannot be justified by law of the country. But still, within the law, there is freedom of expression. You cannot subject some. In fact, let me read the article 32, section 4. It says, "A person shall not be compelled to act or engage in any act that is contrary to the person's belief or religion." So you cannot subject somebody, to compel him. Is a must for you to do A, B, C, D, for you to be accepted as a man of God. I think that would be violating this act.
Okay, so it means there's a lot which need to be done.
Yes, there's a lot.
So, in other words, you're saying we need to acknowledge there are people who have been called.
Yes.
And someone has been called and he goes for training. It is still far much important and good.
That's correct.
However, if he has been called and is being mentored and is being trained informally, we need to acknowledge that, especially if the informal training is from someone who has been trained.
That's correct.
So at least that one has to know, actually during this mentoring process, this person is still online, on track, and chances of him being deceived or deceiving others are minimal, one way or the other. I think that's important. My first 7 years in ministry, I had not gone through a regulated or formal Bible and theological institution. And a lot of what I was doing in ministry, a lot of exploits I was doing in ministry. And years later, when I went to do my training, I realized with much exploits which I had with the shallow knowledge, now it was important because I have deeper understanding of Christ and the Bible, and I can have even more impact without struggling so much like before. It's like this young man during who came up with the issues of piping water to the house some years back.
Yeah.
So because in that community, men who are strong and carrying a lot of water were regarded to be much better. Until
Yes.
the two brothers came up with the making terraces, which later on brought the concept of piping.
Yes.
And people are getting more water in their homes than those who are using their physical energy for that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. You see, the truth is, if we can see Paul,
yes,
and Peter,
yeah,
they were called the same. But you see, the perceiveness, how Peter was how Paul was perceiving things, was much different from Peter. I think there's a time he almost rebuked Peter. You know, I think there was also a background that he has because of his where he came from. So the background plays a very big role. We should not actually underrate that one. It's very important.
Yes,
very important.
Very important.
And that's why you see when you go for training, it's also sharpen your skill. You become more effective. But it needs approach that will not offend or actually kill the confidence of some of men of God, but it needs to be taken slowly. What we recommend, the best thing is, can every ministry have their own way of having training within their constitution to their minister? That actually will encourage them even to go for further. Yeah, so that can also be accountable. They can be accountable to it. They can be satisfied after this training. So like most ministries, they have their own training. Like CITAM, they have their own training. Free Pentecostal, they have their own training. Those kind of things.
Yes. Yeah, I can get you very well. So it's important. Actually, in other words, we are saying it's important in ministry to have Peter, and it's important to have Paul.
Yes.
Peter was a direct mentee of Jesus Christ, because during his time, the Bible talks about the disciples of John the Baptist, we are the disciples of Jesus and others. And the word disciple actually is a student. One is a student. And during those days, during the time of the Greeks, every master was required to have his own students. So the 12 disciples were graduates of the ministry of Jesus himself, the master of all.
Yes.
Interestingly, with Paul on his way to Damascus, when he meets with Jesus one-on-one and he gets converted, Christ appeared to him for the next 17 years, training him in Saudi Arabia. On his graduation after Jesus' ministry, Peter and the other 12 apostles said, finally, from what you are talking to us, understand, we are apostles to the Jews, just as you are an apostle to the Gentiles. And they laid hands on him and they sent him. And now Peter became one of the best leaders among his team, but Paul became one of the great writers because of his background training. Both of them are very important, and they had impact in their own way, in their own path, in their own ministry.
That's correct.
Thank you very much, Apostle Zachariah, for joining us. The time is not on our side. They have helped us to understand some very important things. One, Mackenzie has to pay the price for his choice, so it requires its own consequences. The church at large in Kenya should not suffer because of the negligence of the government departments, which did not do their work well, neither the choice of one particular individual. However, because in every group of people we have hooligans who usually hide among themselves, then it becomes important for every institution to regulate itself within the mandate of their faith, beliefs, and their book. And if that happens, then there'll be more sense of direction. Human rights violation will be totally destroyed, and everybody will enjoy his time and moment in worship and celebration.
Amen.
However, people are being called. It's important for all of them to understand the calling which they have, the kingdom purpose. And then, if their ministry as training program, let them start from that point, and much more if they can advance for more quality training, so that their belief is based on the Bible, but not the ideas and the ideology of their founder, so that by the end of the day, we grow in the knowledge of Christ and the kingdom. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you for joining us today in the studio, and also appreciate everybody else who joined us. Tomorrow, we are on again with Professor Bet and Dr. Jason Osioka, as they are going to address the same subject matter. Don't miss it. Join us and learn. God bless you. Good night from any part of this world who will be joining us. Apostle Zachariah, thank you today for sacrificing all the way in Kericho.
Thank you.
And presenting the position of Kenya Christian Voice.
Christian Voice.
Yes. Thank you very much. God bless you. Just stay on, even as I log off with the other guys on studio. Thank you, everyone. God bless you so much. Make sure that you join us again tomorrow as we continue to learn who should regulate the church. Who is the church? Who should regulate it? And how are people supposed to live as Christian? Good night, good morning, good evening.